Are you somebody who's fascinated by insider accounts, particularly when it comes to motorcycle clubs? You're going to want to listen to this next interview. Today, we're talking about a Hells Angel turned police informant, and not just any Hells Angel, by the way. This man was the highest-ranking member to ever flip on the club, so to speak. His name, Dave Atwell. He was the sergeant-at-arms of the downtown Toronto chapter, and his story is laid out in the pages of The Hard Way Out. Because Atwell is now in the witness protection program, he chose author Jerry Langton to tell his story. Jerry now joins us in studio. Good morning to you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, how does this even start? How did you connect with him?
Well, I've written a lot of books on this subject, and people approach me all the time to tell their story. Most of the stories kind of really aren't worth telling, but Dave's was because he quit the Hells Angels not because he was facing jail time or any other sort of trouble. He just got tired of the life. And he was an interesting guy who had led an interesting life. And I found the story fascinating.
He's in the witness protection program. So how does that even work? I mean, did you meet him face to face? Is it a phone call? How does that function?
No, he came up with an assumed name for a Gmail account. And I'm pretty open. I'm out there. Everybody knows where I am. I'm easy to get in touch with. And he told me his story, and I checked it out with some other sources I have in law enforcement and in the biker world. And it was really him.
Yeah, because that would be my next logical question. I mean, how do you verify what he's telling you is in fact true?
Well, like I say, I have a lot of sources. So I would find out things that I knew couldn't be published. A lot of things can't be published because of libel laws. And I would ask him questions, and he knew all the answers. He knew all the people.
All right, so in the book, you walk us through his life, in his words. He started off with the Paradise Riders, ended up with the Hells Angels, sort of a move up, and you call it in your book, quote, being called up from the American Hockey League to the NHL. You equate it to that.
Well, exactly. I mean, the Hells Angels, I mean, everybody knows them. I remember writing a book once about the Outlaws, the number 2 gang, and a law enforcement officer said to me, you know, nobody makes movies about the Outlaws. Everybody knows that the Hells Angels are the big club. They're the major leagues. They're the stars of the motorcycle world.
What makes them so different from the other ones? I mean,
well, they're well established, and they have a lot of personalities. Like I said, there'd be movies about them. Everybody knows them. Their logo is familiar to everyone. And that notoriety comes from the fact that they have a notorious reputation for violence.
And you talk about the colors and the patches and all that, and there's quite a... there are rules to live by. There are a lot of rules.
There are a lot of rules, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of insider information on how it functions, how you become a Hells Angel?
Well, you know, it's funny because people will, I see them online all the time, they'll say, oh, how do I get to be a Hells Angel?
Do people ask you that?
All the time,
right.
Yeah. Well, you don't, right? They come and they recruit you. You have to bring something to the club, and you have to be their type of person. And Dave definitely was. He had a very sort of sophisticated career in security. He knew how to comb a room for bugs. He knew how to shake a tail. So he had a lot of skill. Yeah, indeed. It was 380 pounds at one point. He had a lot of skills he could bring to the club. So when he joined the Paradise Riders, he was riding around having a good time. Maybe some guys broke some laws, but everything changed when he became a Hells Angel. It all became about making money for the club.
And you say, you know, what stood out to you just now, you were talking about the fact that he chose to become a police informant. This wasn't a question of, you know, he was offering that up in exchange for something else, which did make his story very unusual.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, most people who become police agents do so because they're desperate. They have no other recourse. They're facing a long prison term. Dave, on the other hand, you know, he wasn't facing any prison term. The charges against him were small, and they were stayed. He wasn't a drug addict. He didn't have any reason to really turn on the Hells Angels, except for the fact that he thought that they had ruined his life. He didn't want to live that way anymore. He wanted to get back into normal society.
What's life like for him now?
Difficult. I mean, he has a new identity. He has a career, but no contact with his friends, his family, his old life. It's hard for him to be spontaneous with people because he has to stick to the story that he's being given.
And you know, I was thinking as I was reading this story and knowing you were coming in today, I was thinking, what about your safety? I mean, does that cross your mind when you've got somebody like Dave Atwell contacting you? He's the one in hiding, but you're the one telling his story.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that?
Doesn't really occur to me except when you bring it up, but not really. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really tell anything that hasn't happened. I don't make anything up, and so it's not like I'm, pointing at the Hells Angels, saying, "Look how bad they are." I'm saying, this actually happened. This is his story. That's what these people do.
Was it worth it for him, do you think?
I think so. I mean, he really had no recourse. He couldn't go back to security. No one would hire him. He lost his private investigator's license because of his association with the Hells Angels. That's why he started dealing drugs. And realistically, he would have had to be a Hells Angel for life. You don't run into a lot of ex-Hells Angels. I mean, they don't want you to retire from the club because then you can tell people what the club do. So his only way out was to become informant.
Did anyone from Hells Angels contact you at all?
I know some people, more associates with the Hells Angels than actual members because, if they speak to the press, they get in big trouble.
But no one said, don't do this book.
No, there's been no attempts to slow it down or stop it at all.
It is an absolutely fascinating read. So many layers to this story. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Thank you so much for being here this morning,
Thank you.
Jerry.